Give us some names to keep our ears out for in the upcoming draft in April. I know you're not done with your studying, but John Dorsey's been pretty effective mid-late rounds, especially last year.
Yeah, I mean, the Browns are still going to have a draft that you're going to get a good amount of players from. I think they still have roughly 10 total picks left. They're going to be picking in the second round, pick 49. It depends on what they do leading up to the draft and what's available. There are going to be several safeties that are available. Juan Thornhill from Virginia, very good football player. Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, who's a player from Florida, another safety who they could attack that position, who could play down towards the box if they need him to. There are going to be players there. Linebacker is a steep drop-off after the first two names, the Devin brothers, Devin White and Devin Bush. So I don't know if they go linebacker second round, but they could go an interior player too, somebody like Kalen Saunders from Western Illinois, or they could go Rennell Wren type 2 later in the draft. But I do think the second round they're going to have some options at positions they really need to attack. It's a really good time to need a safety, somebody that you can bring along to develop. But they could also look at corner too. And John Dorsey hasn't eliminated the idea of jumping back up into the first round to get a corner that they can maybe want to start opposite Denzel Ward. Maybe Justin Lane's available late. Maybe Greedy Williams falls a little bit due to an unstellar combine. So you got some guys who are there that they can jump up and get. I do expect defense to be attacked pretty heavily. Could possibly get an interior offensive lineman at some point in the mid rounds to push, the Austin Corbett right guard type of situation. And then you could also get a wide receiver a little bit later because they could probably use a fifth receiver who has that ability to be a deadly gunner in special teams and punt team and kickoff and stuff of that situation. Maybe a Terry McLaurin from Ohio State to keep your eye on, a guy who's excelled at that role in his college football career. So not much on offense that they need, but on defense they do have some positions I think that they will need to attack. But I don't think anything stops them, Dave, from taking the best player available. So if the best player available happens to be an offensive tackle at 49, if they didn't move up, they'll consider drafting an offensive tackle to develop over the long haul, and maybe a guy who can step in for Hubbard or Greg Robinson when those guys, maybe are set to be moved on from at some point in the next few years. So the good thing for the Browns is they have opportunities in free agency to attack positions that as they go into the draft, they know that they don't have to reach for anybody. But if they fall in love with the prospect, I do expect John Dorsey to continue his mantra of aggressiveness and move back up, possibly toward maybe in the overnight between the first day and the second day, moving into the early part of round 2, at the middle part of round 2, because they love a player at the top of that board. You get a lot of that stuff in the first and second round where there are a lot of players left. You have a whole night to look at it, and the Browns could maybe pull the trigger to move up with Arizona to the top of the second round, something like that. So it's uneasy for me to sit here and say, well, I can skip the first night of the draft because the Browns might not take me. Well, they could really fall in love with somebody and move up and take that position of importance if they want to.
Jake, let me ask you this. Dwayne Haskins, Ohio State quarterback, where do you see him going? And with the trade of Tannehill from the Dolphins, is that a sign that they're going to kind of try to jump ahead of the Giants maybe and try to get a quarterback?
I just think they have to. I think that the Jaguars were a popular place that he could have possibly landed. Obviously, they spent an abundance of money on Nick Foles, so they're out of the picture there. But Miami was sitting there with a couple of quarterbacks that, Jake Rudock, I think, is one of their guys, and then another player I can't remember off the top of my head. But you don't want those guys starting football games on a Sunday if you have intentions of winning. They're at 13. I guess it's a plausible situation that Haskins could fall to 13. Denver seems to be in love with Joe Flacco at 10. It's tough to say. You would think that the Giants would entertain the idea. Maybe the Giants are throwing a curveball saying they're all in on Eli and they're actually going to take Haskins at 6. But, every indication is that Kyler Murray goes 1 to Cliff Kingsbury and his offense in Arizona at 1. And maybe it's Josh Rosen getting traded somewhere that throws a wrench in all this. But if I were Miami, I needed a big, strong-arm quarterback to come in who's not just a big, strong-arm guy. He's a very intelligent quarterback who could be a good football player in the league, breaking his tape down. I think he has the ability to do it. Whether that works out, so much of the NFL is where you land, who you land with, the players around you. It'll be important for Haskins to get around a good offensive weapons. That's why I originally thought New York was the ideal fit for him because they had Odell Beckham and Saquon Barkley, but that shifted pretty quickly in our favor. So, what I'm hoping for Dwayne is he goes somewhere that really wants him, has some weapons and a stable franchise front office, coaching staff around him. If Miami is that place because they're eager to jump up and get him, that'd be fantastic.